Hello, everyone, and welcome to Wisdom Seeker Live. So glad to have everyone here today. As you join us, hope that you will share where you're joining from, whether you're joining from Facebook, LinkedIn, or YouTube. Glad to have you here, and I just appreciate those of you joining. Be sure, please, and just again share where you're joining from. And a couple of admin things is that as I am conducting the show, I look around a bit because I'm monitoring three screens and uh, want to let you know I'm not distracted with other things. It's just what it takes. And welcome, Chris and Jander and Zaid. Appreciate you being here today and joining in as Jander and Saeed as regulars. Um, and oh boy, I'm going to do my best with your name. And if I mispronounce it, please let me know. Dipayan from India. So glad to have you. Welcome, Jane. Sandas. Wow, glad to have all of you here today. I think we're going to have an opportunity to really learn from each other. And yeah, welcome from Texas, Jane. Glad to have you. As I always like to do to start off the day, the show, welcome, Mark, is to talk about what we mean by wisdom on Wisdom Seeker Live. And wisdom is a journey, it's not an arrival or an event. It is a process that we go through, and that journey starts with our gaining knowledge. And hopefully, each of us approaches each day with the idea of gaining additional knowledge. And unfortunately, a lot of people stop with knowledge and they lose out by landing there thinking that's the end result, because there's two more steps in the wisdom process. And that is, second one is understanding. And that's what goes on when we begin to take the knowledge we have and apply it in life. Find ways to use it day to day in a practical sense, and figure out ways that it makes sense. Welcome, Sharon. And so that's the second step in the wisdom journey. And then the last step is taking our knowledge and our understanding and beginning to apply it in and see it from a much bigger perspective, primarily a perspective outside of ourselves. And as those of us that are spiritually oriented, we like to say it is we want to begin to see things through God's eyes, see people, see circumstances, so that as we apply our knowledge and our understanding, then it's beyond just what it means to us, but we understand how it affects others and affects situations around us. So that's the wisdom process as we look at it on Wisdom Seeker. And I appreciate you all sharing this time. Welcome, Joanne. Glad to have you. And so, as I always do when I start a new topic, I like to look at what is considered definitions. And today, we're talking about balance. And part of what prompted this is I posted this week and did a little bit of a controversial post in that I've challenged the concept of work-life balance. And it has proven to be interesting to create some dialogue, which is, to me, always the value of posting, and especially including polls. I like to use the polls because they cause us to think and consider and carry on that dialogue. Welcome, Fabrice. Glad to have you. So, again, I guess because I'll always be a teacher, I will want to uh, share and help us learn and gain some additional knowledge. And so let's get into the idea of what is balance. And then I also want to share some possible uh, alternative approach in terms of expressing what we're after. I think that most of us have an idea of what we're after, and but I think we've got to reframe some of the conversation around it. So balance. Uh, I looked up balance, and as I kind of expected, it's a state of equilibrium or equipoise, equal distribution of a weight, amount, something used to produce equilibrium. The big concept with balance is equilibrium. And balance we commonly think of in terms of balance in uh, economy. Balance is in, like pictured here, justice or measures. And so I also like to share visuals in regards to new concept, because I know that we all learn in different ways and some of us learn visually. So it's rather interesting to see the different ones. I like this one where we look at kind of almost like a tightrope concept. And so just again, insight into we use the word balance, what is meant by it. And I think that we do well to be wise in our conversation, and glad to see us discuss and develop some common ground, because from there we can have better conversation and better relationship. Um, and so I like to also share your comments. And by the way, Sharon's joining us from the New York area. Glad I forgot to mention that earlier. Others of you, if you haven't, share where you're joining from. We always like to recognize our audience. So Jane shares a comment: in this day and age, I believe we must start embracing each other. We must be more tolerant of people we don't understand or know. And I appreciate your polls. Thank you, Jane. Um, I know that some of my connections have grown weary of polls, and I certainly understand, because polls are still pretty popular on LinkedIn. But I try to not have polls just for the sake of having polls. I like to have them to help us build some common ground. And so the where we started this conversation originally on this post was the idea of work-life balance. And if we believe that balance is equilibrium, I'm concerned that we have a challenge in that equilibrium is a hard thing to attain. And I believe that there are a lot of people, maybe, that even deal with guilt over the idea of trying to find equilibrium, and realize how difficult it is, because the idea of equilibrium means that everything has to be in perfect balance, and even each other out. So the concept is 50-50, and or and so you see that trying to get everything at 50%, 50% is a challenge. Welcome, Karen, one of our regulars. Glad to have you, Karen. Thanks for being here. So the concept of balance is well applied in certain cases, but my question is that what we, or at least the traditional sense of what balance is that what we need to be doing for life issues? And so I challenged that the idea of work-life balance is a myth, because I am convinced, especially based on traditional understanding of what balance is, equilibrium, that it is a myth because life is not so I don't know, clean or straight line or whatever that we can just easily have a clear 50-50 proposition in it. And that's why I challenge the thought there. Welcome, Rosemary, one of our regulars. It's okay. We all sometimes have challenges with our time. And so anyway, that's the conversation I want us to have. And then I'm going to offer an alternate in terms of terminology. And so again, I like to share what your thoughts are. Dipian, again, please correct me if I'm saying wrong. Life is all about balance. Purpose of life is happiness. Agree that that we want to have a sense of happiness in our life, and I get that. And the concept of balance in terms of including the different parts of our life is certainly important. I just don't think it's realistic to maintain equilibrium, because equilibrium means that one side has to be equal to the other side. And I think that's where we get into problems, is that we discover that it's not practical to try to have everything in equilibrium. And in fact, some people get real under the gun or under guilt because they can't keep everything 50-50 or at equilibrium. And as Zaid shares, it's not a straight line from point A to Z. And I agree, Zaid. In fact, when I talk about balance in life and my view of what balance is definitely ties in. Welcome, Hawk. Glad to have you. Hawk is one of our regulars as well. By the way, I hope that many of you that are new today will become a regular and help us carry this forward of seeking wisdom together. And so thanks for being here. And yes, I have to agree with you, Dipian, that happiness is from our soul. No doubt. And Jane shares, to find balance, it helps first to let go of things we cannot control. So many people are anxious over things they cannot control. We can learn to balance the things we have control of. So true, Jane. One of the things that I've created a graphic on, and we talk about in perspective force all the time, is that we need to evaluate what the things that if we can control it, we need to make a plan and deal with it. If we can't control it, the question is, can we influence it? If we can influence it, again, make a plan, get some goals. And if we can't control or influence it, we need to let go of it, because we spend too much time focused on the things that we can't control or influence, and let it expend and use our emotional energy. And Sandos comments, not really mathematical, just a process to maintain equilibrium. Understood, and agree with you there. And Fabrice shares that balance to try to understand others, even if it's not easy to decode that language. Yeah, communication is certainly a part of the challenge we face in relationships, and part of the reason that I take the time to do what we're doing is to reframe the conversation, because quite often our relationship challenges come because of miscommunication. Somebody says something, we take it one way, they meant it another, and so we don't have common ground in communication. that is why I continue to challenge some of the uh, concepts and phrasing that we use. And so, definitely what we need to be working on. And Hawk shares a comment. I am fond of the term homeostasis. Homeostasis. To me, that implies that shifts occur and you have to change other factors in your life in a constant process. Good one, good one. And certainly getting more in line with the way I see the way we approach it, and agree with you. And and let's see, Zaid shares, to achieve balance, we have to control something. The point here is, how much can we control our employer demands from one side and what life throws on us from the other side? Yeah. And the other challenge that I have suggested is that we have got a priority problem as we approach the topic, because work is not equal to life. It is part of life, no doubt. And at times it's a big part of life, depends on times and seasons of our life, but it isn't life. So the other reason I think that work life balance is a myth is because work is not on the same plane as life. And for those that have made it that way, the devastation for doing so becomes in the form of when we lose a job. And if that is is equal part of life, then we are devastated. Even our identities challenged. Or if we get looking to quit a job because it's not where we need to be, it's caused us to question our values. Well, if that is tied up equal with life, that makes it much harder to make a wise and good choice, because how we have prioritized it. So that's the other aspect of the what I consider work-life balance, a bit of a myth. Let's see. Oh, well, thank you, Karen. I appreciate you sharing that. It's always encouraging. There are times that I question and maybe even not feel completely motivated. And in fact, this morning, kind of interesting as a little side note, I'm less than 10 minutes from going live and my internet starts acting up, and I'm thinking, oh boy, this could be a challenging day. Welcome, Erica. Glad to have you with us. Appreciate you being here. Erica's a good friend on LinkedIn, as many of you are. And so thank you. Rosemary comments that if it costs you your peace, it's too expensive. And see, that's why I am concerned with the concept of work-life balance, and really think that we need to reframe that so that we have a better view of finding this concept. It's not that I'm opposed to having balance. And again, I'll share in just a moment how I look at balance. But the problem is my view of balance and how to define it is unfortunately not in the mainstream. And therefore, the idea is either reframe the concept of balance or change the term to one that makes is more commonly accepted, shall we say. Um, and Erica goes on to say, incredibly important distinction that is missing from just work-life balance. You're welcome, Erica. Again, this is about gaining wisdom, and the way I think we do that is to share with each other and our own experiences, and learn from each other, value there. And Hawk shares a very good point, Kevin. Perhaps you also can address the specific challenges that exist for us who are our own bosses. Oh, Hawk, that's a whole nother day of conversation. Having been my own boss now for the second time, I lost the romantic notions of being my own boss back the first time around. And we can certainly talk about that. Maybe we should do a wisdom seeker on that completely. Um, and so, yeah, and Hawk says that he would love to fire my boss at times. I get that. Um, and then Zaid says that could have caused you some balance issues, Kevin, with the internet acting up. Yeah, it did cause me to maybe get a little bit challenged in my balance. Welcome, Anton. Never has work and life been more integrated than they. We have to find congruence. Okay, you snuck one in on me there, Anton. And I have to say thank you, Anton. I'm sorry, Anton mentions congruence. And part of where I'm coming from actually comes out of conversations that we have at Perspective Force about the idea of managing our stress. So thank you for that. So um, the concept of work-life balance is, again, to me, especially as it's viewed in current terminology, is a myth. And what happens is, with a myth, just like chasing unicorns, they don't exist. They're interesting to talk about. They can have some creative approaches to it, but they don't exist. And if we really put a lot of stock in finding the unicorns, we're always in trouble. And trying to find work-life balance, equilibrium, is not practical, because in order for that to happen, life has to be in a straight line. And maybe I'm just missing it, and everyone else has a straight life, a straight line life, and this works. But most everybody I know, their life zigs and zags and twists and turns, and so we just really need to consider it. So I will share. I've mentioned that I have a different perspective on what balance is, and then we'll look maybe at some other common ground here. But balance, again, what most people think, go back to looking at definition. It's a state of equilibrium, and it's also, we see it as keeping both sides of the equation equal. It's as I think it was Zaid mentioned, it's a mathematical look. But what I learned, and this was from a great book that I read, believe it or not, and I know y'all are going to be real surprised that I could be this old, but I read this book back in the 70s, and this book just made quite an impact in my life. It's called Balanced Christianity. And the precept or concept of balance in the book was that balance is not finding middle ground. Finding middle ground is really, in terms of life, it's mediocrity. It's not really where we want to be. Balance in life is about grasping two opposing extremes and having a very firm grasp on both of them, and then being able to vacillate or oscillate between the two concepts based on what's going on in our life, the need of the moment, and the what we need to do relationally, and so on. So it really changed my view of what balance is. Unfortunately, again, most people don't think in terms of that, and I've attempted to help reframe the concept of balance, but it is not something that is being, I don't know, bought into or taken hold. And so I think that maybe we should approach this or reframe the conversation rather than work-life balance, as Anton alluded to or shared, is the concept of congruence. And throughout time and life, for me, congruence makes more sense and really helps to uh, frame this concept that, first of all, it is more realistic in our life, and it is more true of what we really want to see. We're not, I don't think that any of us can find a perfect 50-50 equilibrium in our life, because life is too fluid and too challenging. And I personally don't need the guilt of trying to find that equilibrium all the time, knowing before I even start that I will uh, uh, be defeated. Thanks for stopping by, Ashfac. Really glad that you were able to stop in. Ashfac's another one of our regulars. So thank you for at least stopping in. Hope your other session is a great one as well. So let's look at the concept then of congruence. What in the world is congruence? Well, congruence, the definition, and this is again not my idea, this is just a Google search of the word congruence, and it talks about agreement or harmony or compatibility. And I think that that is more a sense of what we should be looking for with our life, is that we find agreement and compatibility, harmony with different aspects of our life, including work. And when I look up congruence in terms of images, it's rather interesting that we see that rather than being kind of a 50-50 or a linear mathematical concept, it is about more spatial or relational concepts. And that to me makes more sense in what we should be looking for in our life. We're not looking to balance out a mathematical formula with different aspects of our lives, but rather to get them to be compatible. And that includes then being able to prioritize what different elements of our life looks like. And I maybe on another show I'll share an image that I created in regards to balance. In fact, one of the posts that I shared about the show today had that image on there. I tell you what, I'll even put that on my profile so that if people are interested can see it. But I think given the current situation and the struggles that people have, it's more likely to be able to shift the concept in terms of current terminology rather than reframing what balance looks like. Welcome, Jeremy, one of our regulars here on the Wisdom Seeker Live podcast. Thanks for being here. Always good to hear from you. So, congruence. And when we start talking about congruence, what we're doing is fitting the different parts of our life in the right places. And equally important is the priority element, because we need to have our priorities in order. And I find that a lot of people are lacking in living their priorities. And see you, Rosemary. Thanks for stopping in. Rosemary, for those don't know, or joins from down in Australia. And so this is a late evening. And by the way, good luck with your day tomorrow. Our friend Rosemary is looking to be possibly awarded quite an award in her area of expertise. And so good luck. God bless with that, no doubt. And so congruence, I think, better summarizes what needs to be our target. And frankly, it is more realistic and it allows for us to consider priorities and to look at our life, our parts of our life, so that we can prioritize them. And frankly, my experience being around here for a while is our priorities can shift at different times, different seasons of life that we go through. And Hawk shares a passage of scripture. By the way, those of you that are new to the Wisdom Seeker Live know that one of the things that I do call on for wisdom for me, and suggest others consider it, whether you agree with the tenets of faith, is the Bible. And Hawk, I'm drawing a blank. I probably know what Matthew 13:24 says, but hey, if it's in the scripture, it's likely got wisdom to offer. And let's see, Anton shares one of my issues with people trying to look for balance between work and life has to do with the need to have opposition. One opposes the other. So I ask people, how can one possibly find something of equal weight in opposition of our families and the Lord? Wow. Like that, Anton. Yes. And under the definition of balance that I operate from, there's an element of that. They are opposing forces that we have to keep in tension. And the challenge is learning and gaining wisdom to know which one of those takes priority at a given moment. And that is the challenge that we all face. Which one do we put before the other at a given time? And that we need to be in our minds and in our lives prepared to adjust with that. For example, when I was younger, I had a young family. I started my family very young, had my first home at 19, first child at 20, and was working. And so my priorities at that moment were very different. Fast forward, way forward to where I'm at now. My children are grown and having children of their own. So my priorities shift. And if I'm trying to always keep this equilibrium or balance, if you will, I would be very frustrated because right now my children are important, but they are living their own life. And my grandchildren are there and they're important, but I don't see them all the time. So again, being able to adjust with what's going on in our life. And I think that what we're looking for, rather than balance in terms of current vernacular, is we're looking for harmony. We want them to fit together and function well. And we want them to not be in conflict, but actually, I think a better way is to think of them as complementary. And I think that should be where our goals are. And let's see, Hawk shares, and we sow, and congruence is the process of approaching congruence where life aligns. Yes, it helps us to begin to, when we invest in different parts of our lives, to grow it and then find the harmony in our life. And that's, I think, what we are after. And welcome, Panda Sarika from India, and as a regular and a kind supporter of Wisdom Seeker and of my LinkedIn activity. So welcome, thank you. And so again, reframing this idea, because we have enough challenges in life, we have enough stress in life without adding to it by having unrealistic expectations of what life should be about. And so that's why I really want to challenge the concept of work-life balance. I believe that a lot of people have the right idea that they want there to be harmony and the parts of our life working together in a way that makes for a good life, or as I like to see, and I believe that by design we're intended to have, is abundance in life. And that is a principle that I believe strongly, and I believe that's what we're intended by design to have. And by the way, some people think only see abundance in one way, and that's dollars, and that's not what I am referring to. I'm talking about abundance and living a life that is full because it is the life that we are designed to live, and that it is fulfilling, it is satisfying, it has joy in it, and so on. So just to make sure I don't possibly misdirect or misguide people's thinking that that it's all about wealth, and because it's not. Comment from Panda is that we need leaders who inspire integrity, harmony, and peace. I agree, and I think that one of the challenges we're facing today is an absence of leadership with moral integrity and moral courage to lead us in the right direction, rather than just in popular ways and things that are politically correct. And Jeremy shares a thought, says that to find harmony, we must always pivot as we need to in a way that aligns with harmony we want in our lives. That's part of the key there, Jeremy, is that rather than trying to keep one part in balance with the other at a 50-50 equilibrium, we need to be able to adjust as life comes along, because as Zaid mentioned, it's not a mathematical thing. Life is not a straight line course. It would be simpler if it was, because then it would be predictable. And for that matter, I joke at times that I would like to have formulas. You know, give me a formula that I can plug in the variables and figure out the answer. And frankly, they don't exist in life. It's We don't live by formulas. We have to deal with life as it comes, and part of the reason for this whole concept of wisdom seeker is to help us find wisdom in being able to deal with life. Because the more wisdom we have, the greater chance we have to find the harmony, find the peace, and all that we are all talk about trying to find. And let's see, boy, I'm glad to see everybody sharing. This is great. Outside factors bring distractions, but we have to choose right habits and actions, no doubt. And yeah, money can't make us happy. It can buy assets, but things in the end won't make us happy. I know a lot of people that have all kind of money. They are millionaires, even billionaires, and they still say it's not satisfying. And we especially see the priority when people like that are on their deathbed. Quite often their perspective changes and they have a lot of regrets, knowing that, yeah, they had what the world said is successful, and they found out it's not satisfying, it's not meaningful, because that wealth, it doesn't take care of that. I promise you, it doesn't. Let's see, Hawk. I think that we need to have a goal. Mine is helping create a better world for my children, their children, and their children. Then it's all about the process. Certainly, having goals is valuable, Hawk, no doubt. What I think of is that what we're missing is vision, which in some ways could be considered the ultimate goal, but it's much bigger than a goal. And I think indeed we've got to find our vision and live to drive and move towards that vision to fill it. Um, Panda shares make the world a global family by sharing values of respect, kindness, and generosity. We've got to find common ground. I don't know that we're going to ever not have conflict, but what we can do is work together in such a way, and this is part of what I'm after with wisdom and addressing some of these communication questions, is we may not always be able to be without conflict, but if we can avoid some of it by having common ground in our communication, then why not? Let's at least go for something that is more attainable. And who knows, if we do it often enough, certainly could get much closer to having absence of conflict. Time will tell. Jane says, see harmony where we are rather than see harmony where we are rather than seeking it somewhere else. Create harmony within first, and harmony will appear around you. Yeah, that's the other thing that concerns me with so-called work-life balance, is that it is focused a lot on physical and time. Time's important. We all have the constraint of time, but the bigger priority is what we are doing uh, in terms of inwardly, and keeping that as a critical part of how we evaluate and where we set our priorities. And as Jane says, uh, finding harmony where we are, not in what could be, not looking for that certain circumstances that is going to give us that harmony. Now, our circumstances aren't going to give us harmony. Our harmony is going to come from inwardly. And the beauty of that is that it is, if we begin to focus that way, then we're not tossed about by our circumstances, which is a constant battle for many, is they are looking for that outward harmony and not the inward harmony, and they'll never and they stay frustrated and discouraged, even hopeless over that. And uh, excuse me, nose itching. We a lot of good comments, and Panda shares, understand what comes first for your family, relationship, or money position. Yeah, those are some of the considerations that we have to have. What is our priority? And again, part of the reason that I encourage people to find their design, passion, and purpose is because that should set our priority. And when we understand our design, passion, and purpose, we have a chance of then being what we need to be for others. It's all part of, and I know that some people would maybe even take offense at this, and that's not my intent, but we are created, and we are created with a purpose, and there are principles of life and us that are a part that we need to understand. And that includes spiritual principles, because we are body, soul, and spirit. And unless we are nurturing all three areas, then we don't stand a chance to have congruence or balance, because we don't even know where we're at or where we should be going. So again, all this fits together, and that's part of the real desire that I have, because if you look at what is on my profile, and if you've heard me much, my vision is to help people find their potential. And I do that through different means. But one of the key things in finding our potential is to understand our design. And each of us has a design, and some of that design is a shared design that is common to humanity. But then there are other parts that are uniquely us. And those are the things that bring value into our world, is as we can gather and find commonality in our shared humanity and also embrace our differences and our unique design, then we have a chance of uh, having abundance and living more in harmony because we're not fighting with each other and we are working to grow in life and to be abundant in our life. By the way, thank you for the conversations going on between everyone. Someday I've thought about, and maybe I need to do this, is for those of us that are regulars on the Wisdom Seeker uh, podcast, is to do a either a live that I can bring everyone on live or do a Zoom for all of us so that we can have these conversations verbally as well, because I love the exchange and interchange between each other. So let me get back to um, the different comments. Question from Zaid: is life a process of constant conflict? Wow. Um, I don't I don't see it as constant conflict. I think that what we do face, and I believe this from a principle standpoint, is that life is about overcoming adversities, because we will indeed have adversity. And uh, one of my favorite sayings is that we don't want to share our stories about avoiding adversity. The value of our story is when we share about overcoming adversity. We need to certainly uh, work together and help each other overcome. And biblical principle says that we are to comfort others by the comfort which we've received. And that, I believe, to put in a little more modern terminology, is that, where we found comfort to overcome, where we learn to overcome our adversities, that's what we then turn around and share with others to help them. That's part of our universal design, by the way. So, wow, let's. I want to get your comments in, and we're running out of time. Hawk says, I should add, Kevin, I have an extended view of my children, my bio children, and my children by extension, the many kids I have worked with in my life. Oh, yeah, I get that, Hawk, as a teacher and someone that is currently working. And it's kind of funny, at my age, it seems like everybody's a kid. And so I get that. I invest in. I just finished last week working with a little over 100 younger people in an apprenticeship program, and they become part of my kids, if you will, because I invest to help them uh, move forward with what they're doing and finding their potential, no doubt. And Panda shares, don't chase for happiness. Happiness needs our compassion. And then let's see, Hawk addresses Zaid's question. Conflict's a powerful tool for transformation and change. If dissolved, not solved, because most solutions implies one winner and one loser. See, and that's another challenge, and I think it gets into our terminology, is win lose. And win lose is if you base it on a sum zero kind of mentality, that means if I win, you lose. I don't buy it. I don't think that's part of our design. I think if you want to reframe it, when I become better at who I am and who I'm supposed to be from one day to the next, I'm a winner. But in that case, not only am I a winner, but hopefully those around me are winners, because I am better for myself as well as for them. Excuse me. Yeah, and Panda shares that human means feelings, so we have to control our senses, our feelings. Yeah, feelings are a part of life, and some control them better than others, but it's a part of what we need to be seeking is self-control and self-discipline to be able to move forward with life. uh, Jeremy, thanks for jumping in. I appreciate that you stopped by, and take care and be blessed. And let's see. Yeah, one of the things Hawk used to talk about, a holistic view of human creation. Our Creator sees us as all part of creation. Now, one distinction, and I probably get myself in trouble for this one, but I believe it's wise and biblically based, and that is that we are part of creation, but in our Creator's eyes, that we're the crowning jewel of creation, and we are held in higher esteem than other parts of creation. Animals, we're different than animals, and but we're all part of this thing we call creation. Uh, yeah, Jane, I think you're right that a Zoom with all the wisdom seekers in one place would be a great opportunity. And I'll really give that some thought, that we can come together one time. And I've even heard, and I have to grow in my technology, that now with Zoom you can actually stream live on LinkedIn and other platforms. So maybe that's a way we could really have some great conversations. So yeah, look out at that. And I'm still looking at starting a Wisdom Seeker Live group, and I've gotten a little feedback, but if you think that's something that would be good, I'll plan to do that, and so that we can have ongoing communication through such a group. Let's see. Yeah, and Jane shares, surround ourselves with like-minded people so that it can be strong and comforting others. That's part of what relationships are about, is as we go along in life, there are people that come and go in our lives. And part of the reason that they come and go is for us to minister to or comfort, or for them to comfort us, or maybe both. And the more we start considering that and look at it, then the better chance we have of growing and overcoming, and the better chance that others have of growing and overcoming. So as we're winding down time, I know that this post that I've got out in this poll about work-life balance has created some good discussion, and I know that some have reacted to my statement that work-life balance is a myth. And I still say that for our own health, that we need to consider that we don't need work-life balance, but what we're really looking for is work-life congruence, harmony between the different parts of our life, and how they fit together, and how they are prioritized on a daily basis, even moment by moment basis, as we move forward. And really, I pray that we begin to find design, passion, and purpose in our lives, so that we are, for our sakes, as well as the sakes of each other, we're living who we are designed to be. And we're living it with the purpose and the passion that we are designed with. Because the more we do that, as Jane mentioned, being around like-minded people, the better chance that we have of even being like-minded. Because as we begin to accept who we are and live in that, and another principle, again, by design, and it's biblically stated, is that we are to love our neighbor, but it has a second part, and that's as ourselves. That in order to love others, I have to love and accept who God's created me. And if I can't do that, I'm going to find it very difficult, if not impossible, to love and accept others and to be able to encourage them to live who they are. And so, again, I'm getting back into some of the whole drive behind Wisdom Seeker is that we can begin to live who we're supposed to be, accept and encourage others to do the same. We have a better chance of having a better world around us. I really believe that, and whether or the likelihood that we're going to have world peace where there's no conflict anywhere, I don't know that's realistic, because there are people, unfortunately, in our world that have no interest in being without conflict. And so I like to be realistic, but we can certainly develop in a way that we can love each other, walk wisely, and be able to become a part together, as the Bible talks about, a part of a body, and a body that is functioning in a healthy fashion. Um, and get back to some comments. Sharon, unfortunately, it shows you as LinkedIn user. I apologize. I appreciate you supporting Jane's comment. I think that's a good idea. And Panda shares finding sources which motivate us. Certainly value. And yes, meditation is a certain value, no doubt, that we should include meditation as part of what we do. And thank you for the support, Hawk. I appreciate that. And then Sharon goes on to say that we have to accept ourselves before others can accept us. And I think that is such a key element of what we need to be reminded of on a regular basis. And Hawk chimes in, very true. And accepting yourself implies accepting all facets of yourselves, sometimes in order to change them to be more congruent with the plan for your life. Very much so. Acceptance. In fact, get into a little bit into some spiritual things, but one of the mistakes we make is that we think in order to relate to God, our creator, that we have to clean up our act or be better or whatever. And according to the principles of scriptures, we can't do that. That's not possible. And that God's love for us is in such a way that he accepts us just like we are. He loves us just like we are. And when we can begin to see ourselves as he sees us, then we have a chance to, from that place, grow and become more of who we are supposed to be. We're fully equipped to be that person. We just have to learn how to use the equipment we've been given to be that person. And that's part of growth. That's part of wisdom. And part of the way we do that is by overcoming adversity. And when we see that adversity as a means to become who we are designed to be and to find abundance, then adversity is not our enemy. It's actually a friend and something that we can learn, as is said in the Bible, says we should count it all joy when we encounter adversity. Doesn't mean that we have to be happy when we struggle. It just means that we should be thankful that we have the opportunity to struggle and grow. And by the way, we don't do it alone. That if we connect with our Creator and stay in relationship, then he is with us to go through the adversity. So a lot of different ways to view how to approach it. And to me, this is all part of the wisdom that we need to gain, and not only gain it in the form of knowledge or even understanding, but get to a point that it is conviction. In other words, we believe it to the point that if it were to turn out not to be true, we would be in a bad spot. Believing it to a point that we actually stake our life on it. And that's where we get into conviction. So, um, yeah, and yeah, Hawk, we got to love our enemies. That's a tough one. God didn't give us exceptions. He said we got to love everybody. And so that's a challenge. Well, we're up against time. Wow. Thank you, everybody, for being here today and encouraging me. I appreciate that, encouraging each other. And my hope is that today you walk away with some additional wisdom and that maybe you'll consider work-life congruence, because that is really more in conjunction with what we need, and it's attainable. It's not this unrealistic expectation of equilibrium and everything, because life isn't linear. Life is not straight line. It's challenging. So thanks, everybody. Look forward to seeing you again next week, I hope. And then maybe if you have some thoughts on this giant Zoom gathering and or the idea of a wisdom seeker group, please DM me if you would, and let me know, because I don't want to do something that is just for me. It's not about me, it's about us. So thank you, everybody. God bless. Have an amazing rest of your week. Be sure to encourage and each other, and to always be seeking to gain wisdom. Thank you, everyone.